So tonight we're going to do a garlic knot. We're going to create red velvet lava cake, and then we have a spinach garlic or garlic spinach pasta with za'atar. So we're going to start out first with the garlic knot. So if you will get your ingredients for the garlic knots, that's going to be your first step. So you have a 2.5 cup flour bag, and then you also have a 1 cup, because the 1 cup, in case it's sticky, you're going to add a little bit of it, and then also it can be used for your what we call bench flour that you can spread out, and then you can put it on your countertop. So we'll use that as a backup. Okay. So first off, we're going to get that 1/4 cup of butter, and so you should have a bag that has a small amount of butter as well as 2 cloves of garlic and then a 1/2 stick. So a 1/2 stick is a 1/4 cup. We're going to put this in and melt it. In the meantime, I did preheat my oven. If anybody, is anybody cooking with us tonight? If you want to preheat your oven. Okay. Get that go, or turn that down just a little bit. So we're going to preheat the oven to 400, is because you're going to use the 400 degrees both for your lava cake and for your garlic knots. So super. Okay, so we've got a Cecily. Hi, Cecily. So you've got those. We're going to start melting that butter, and then we're going to stir in the milk. So you have a container of milk. You also have cream, so make sure you don't grab your whipped cream. This is going to be the bigger one. And once that butter melts, then we're going to add to it, add the milk into there. And you know what? I need to grab a wooden spoon really fast. So we're going to mix that together. The other thing you have is yeast. All these good things together. Thanks, Gary. So we're going to use the yeast tonight, and we're using instant yeast. So my first question, everybody, is what's the difference between instant yeast and active dry yeast? Does anybody know? Turn this up a little bit. What's the difference between active yeast, active dry yeast, and instant yeast? Tonight we're using instant yeast. Any ideas? Anybody grab that one, Jess? Okay, so I'll let you think about that one. The other thing, garlic knots. How long garlic knots been around? Not that long, actually, and they actually began, if we think of what the dough is a lot like, where do you think garlic knots started? What food service arena started the garlic knot industry, which is really popular now? Who began that process? Think about who uses dough. Who uses dough and spins it up and catches it, and then they lay it out and do something special with it. Who does that? Pizza Hut. Yeah, pizzerias in New York City. Initially 1940s, roughly, Brooklyn. They wanted to figure out how they're going to use their extra dough, so they made garlic knots, and that's kind of where the garlic knot industry began. Not that long ago. So that's where they began, and tonight we're going to create a really nice version of a garlic knot. So we've got our butter melted. And now I'm going to add the milk. And here's the interesting thing about when you make bread. If you use fresh milk like this, we actually need to get it hot enough to kind of denature some of that protein, as well as kill off any pathogens. So we're going to heat this up, but not real hot. And the trick is going to be, we're going to get it up to about 110 degrees if we can. And that's kind of a hard check. I would say that if you don't have a food thermometer, when you wash your hands, 104 is roughly, the hot water. So you could technically, try it, put it on if you wanted to put it on your wrist, or kind of get an idea if you don't have a thermometer. But we're trying to go for about 100, 105. We don't want to go too much hotter because it would actually kill the yeast. So we're going to try and get it up into the 100 mark. So we're going to shoot for, and I'm going to actually get it a little hotter so that it can sit aside while I'm creating the rest of the dish ingredients. So it's right now up to 109, 110. I'm going to let it get a little hotter because I said I was going to leave it on the side. And again, this is going to activate your yeast. But I don't know if anybody got that answer. What's the difference between active yeast and instant yeast? All right, 120, I'm going to pull it. So again, that's really hard to tell. There's not a whole lot of markers to tell you that it's 120 degrees. There is a little bit of stickiness to the edges of your pan that can help you, but you can pull it off the heat and let it sit for a second. And we're going to create our yeast and honey mixture. So I have a bowl that we'll put our yeast in. Okay, so this is the instant yeast. And then we're going to add the honey. So really the difference between, I'll help you. The difference between active or active dry yeast is it has to really be what we call bloomed first. So we would add the warm liquid like water to it and have that kind of start to bloom. The yeast would bloom. But right now we're just going to, this is instant yeast, so it actually can be added right to flour directly. You don't have to actually get it to set or bloom. Okay, so that's in here. And now I got to get all my little baggies out of the way. What we're going to do is our milk is at temperature. So we've added our yeast and honey to a bowl. And because we're not using a mixer,
What did you mix the yeast with?
the honey. So the honey is mixed in with the yeast. So when this is at temperature, we're going to mix this into our container with yeast. Try and get that to separate out a little bit. So before I pour all that mixture in, I'm kind of trying to separate my yeast granules so that they're a little bit more separated. That looks really good. Then as you add that milk, there we go. See, now you have a pretty nice solution. You might have a few chunks of yeast floating, and that's okay. It will combine. And then we're going to add salt to this, and we're going to add an egg to it. So the nice thing about this recipe is it creates a really soft yeast bread. And that's in part due to the milk, just to the fact that the milk is an actual softener for breads. So instead of I don't want to dump my egg, boom, right into here. So I'm going to put it into a separate bowl. I always encourage you to do that just in case you get a shell. You don't want to have it dropping into your mixture like I did get a shell. So that way I can pull it out before I put it in. So you can see there's a shell on the side. Fish that out. Okay. All right. So I will also kind of whisk up my egg a little bit. All right. And then I have, it should say GS or G salt. So for the garlic knots, that's your salt that you're going to add. Now, a question for you. Why would I add salt now when I didn't add it before? Anybody have an idea why that is? Why would I not add it before when I had all my combination here? So you can kind of see that it's getting a little bit, my yeast has gotten a little fluffy, a little bit. If I added the salt initially, it actually stifles that yeast growth. So it really can make it so it doesn't bloom as well. So that's why you add it after you get things mixed and started. So we're going to add the salt now. And then we'll add our egg. Okay. And then we're going to mix that up. I use my regular spoon now. Mix that up. Again, if you get some of those yeast chunks, we can kind of spread them and smash them up against the side. I wouldn't worry too much about it. We just want to get our mixture nice and well. Then I should have probably, well, I can try and shoot. I used a smaller bowl than I probably should have. So we're going to use the first 2.5 cups of flour. And we're going to put this into our mixture. Whoops, some on the table. Well, I can actually use that as part of my, when I mix it in. So I'm going to get really full, a really full bowl, and I think I can make it work, but it's definitely going to be tight. Okay, so 2.5 cups of flour added. Now the trick is we're going to add this and stir it. I want to stir it probably with, I'll use this. And I'll try and pick up my flour from where I spilled it over the edge a little bit. So now we're going to kind of put this in and start incorporating that flour into here. And if you have a mixer that has paddles, of course, you can use that, or a dough hook. But because we're using no kind of a mixer, it's just basically trying to get that incorporated. And you know what? I think Chiari saved my life here and gave me an extra bowl that I will do this. It's going to be easier. No, I think, this will be okay, I think. All right. Now I can make it move. Always a good idea to judge your pan size. So we're going to try and get this pretty much incorporated so it looks like a consistent dough. You're going to have a little bit of stickiness, so that's where your extra flour can come in. And if it gets to the point where it's too sticky, then we can add that extra flour as well. The other thing that makes doughs more sticky is humidity. And of course, what do we have in Hawaii? We have a lot of humidity. So you're going to vary your flour addition by how sticky it is. So if you at home are making it and you can't handle it, we really want to get it to the point where we can handle, where it's not sticky. So use your other bag, maybe add half, and then we'll kind of see what it looks like. We're going to mix that in. So again, really, it's just about, you want to get it to the point where you can handle it. Looking better. Then we're going to have this, and we'll put it on the countertop. So we can actually put it, I can put it directly on this countertop. So at home, if you have a clean counter, you can do that. You could also do it on a cutting board. You know, feel free to use whatever surface you have. We're basically going to get it to the point where it's handleable. And then I'm going to spread a little bit of that extra flour. So we still have this much flour, probably another half cup. So that half cup of flour I can spread out on the counter. And I haven't even used it all. So if it gets too sticky, then we can add more as well. So you want to turn it out onto your countertop or cutting board. Okay. And then we're going to knead it. So the whole purpose of kneading dough is why? Anybody know why we knead dough? We don't, not knead as in I need it, but I'm going to knead it. So there's a little bit of K-N-E-A-D. So we're going to knead the dough. We're going to do this for about 5 minutes. But what's the purpose?
Activate the gluten.
You got it. We got to get that gluten structure. So I'm going to get to a point where it's still handleable. If you have a scraper, that'll also help you scrape it off the counter if it gets stuck, or scrape it off of your cutting board. Remember, if you put a bunch of extra flour in, like it gets so sticky and you can't handle it, basically you can dry out your bread just a bit. So we want to try and avoid getting it too floury, but we still want to be able to handle it. So we're still looking at about, I think I have 4 minutes to go. So fold over, you know, overlap it, push it out. Oops. I have a scraper to use on the counter. So the active dry yeast would have had to sit in the liquid for a little bit longer, but the instant yeast, you can add it right to flour. So that's one of the biggest advantages of using instant flour or instant yeast. All right. And I'm gonna add a little bit more out on my counter. So if we think of what garlic knots, average, usually they have garlic in them. You can either put, tonight's is we're going to put garlic on top. And does anybody have an idea how long? So we have a world record by somebody who created the longest garlic bread, not necessarily the garlic knot, but somebody created the longest loaf of garlic bread. Anybody want to guess at what we got there? How long could we make a loaf of garlic bread? This would be fun to figure out how to cook it too. Take some guesses. How long could that garlic bread have been? $10 feet? 5 feet? 2 feet? Any guess? No guesses? Somebody's got to give me a guess. Just a guess. How long could we make a piece of, or make a loaf of garlic bread?
8 feet.
Oh, good guess. Let's go bigger. Get a little sticky.
10.
Bigger.
20.
Bigger. This is actually back in 2013, so not that long ago. I'll give you a hint. It's greater than 40. So 54 feet, 10 inches long.
Wow.
It was made in Canada, someone in Canada in 2013. So I don't know how they cooked it. I mean, you can imagine how big that oven had to have been. But 54 feet long is pretty good. The best, according to Yelp's reviews and all of that, some of the notable places to buy the best garlic knots on Oahu. Does anybody want to take a guess at that? Some of the best garlic knots that are out there?
No.
Oh, Bravo is like one of the #1s. So if you haven't been to Bravo, go out to it's Pearl City area, right? Down below the mall, a little bit down below the mall. So that is where you can find some of the best garlic knots. Also, Ely Cash and Carry is notable for their garlic knots. And I have not been to that place. So I have just a little bit longer to go on my meeting. And then I'm going to actually separate this into 12 pieces. So we sent you home with a smaller version of a pan. If you happen to have a cookie sheet at home, you'll probably benefit doing it on something bigger because we ended up using a half a sheet. So if you have this, these garlic knots get to be about the size of my palm when they're done rising. So you probably will get 6 in here. If you need to do a double batch or a double run, cook one batch and then come back, take those off and then put the next batch in. The only thing will be your dough is going to rise as it sits because we're going to let it sit as well. And they're just going to keep getting bigger. So you could put it in the refrigerator to stall that rise as well. But otherwise, just try and put 6 on here or use a cookie sheet. So, all right. So this is what we're looking for. It's nice and firm. So we've got a great dough ball, right? Now you can see how the pizza dough group got their start, right? Is they had pizza dough and then they had these little spots that were pulled off extra. So you're going to look for a dough that you can kind of spring back. If you look back, it'll spring out at you. So that's kind of what you're looking for. You can also do a window pane test, which is if you pull it apart, you can kind of see through it without it breaking. Oops, it broke a little bit. That'll tell you kind of that you've gotten to that. So I don't know if you can kind of see that opaqueness on there. So you stretch it out. That'll kind of tell you you don't want it to break too much. If you feel like you're not there yet, keep kneading a little bit longer And I kind of was talking and not kneading, so I'll do 1 more minute of kneading. So again, you're going to create that nice dough, and then we're going to let it sit after we make it into 12 pieces. So you're going to turn this into 12 approximately even slices. Okay. So again, you should be able to handle it. And now we're going to make it into, I'm going to kind of flatten it out, get a good size, and then we're going to shoot for 6. Right. So here's your scraper. A knife would work too. The difference that you're going to get is if you don't have an exact, again, you don't have to weigh these, but if you don't have an exact cut, it's just going to be a little bit, some of your garlic knots will be a little bigger. And then we'll get 6. So let's go here. Oops. No, I need 12, not 6. What am I thinking? 6 on each side. So I have to think about my math. There's 3. So again, however it's easiest for you to stretch out, and you can kind of feel too, you can kind of get an idea of the weight. So if one feels a little bigger or smaller, you can add to it. But we're going to go for 6 per side. Okay. Half. Let's make 3. Okay. All right. And then we're going to turn these into knots. So we're going to roll it out a little bit into basically like a long, you can roll them into a ball. So you can do 2 things. This is what this turns into a roll. So we can do a roll or we can do the knots. So I'm going to set these aside and then I'm going to roll it out. And we're going to make that knot. And because these take a little bit, I've got 12 to do. So it takes me a little, it's going to take you a little bit of time. You can decide how thick or how thin you roll it out. And that feels like it's a little lighter. So I'll add some from here. Again, consistent sizes is going to help you. And maybe I'll only do a few of them so that I don't run too long on garlic knots. But basically, you're going to make a knot. Okay. Kind of shape it out. That came out like a donut. We had Kelly doing these earlier and she made some fabulous knots. There we go. A little better. I don't like that one. Pretzel look. I need to get behind the camera and have Kelly making our knots. I don't know what your trick was.
Close it all the way up.
We're having fun with those. Okay. You went shorter and then
Left the tips out.
oh, you know what I was doing? I was trying to get that. There we go. I was trying to make it too spaced out. All right. Then we're going to put this on the pan and then we're going to cover it. I do cover it with a damp towel just so that it is staying moist. Because remember, that flour is going to start to dry a little bit. So we're going to set it on the pan. And you want to space them, give them enough room because they're going to get bigger as they grow, as they start to rise. There's normally in yeast spreads, we have 2 processes. So this is a very fast production of a yeast spread. So normally we have to ferment it and then let it rise to double. And then we punch it down and then we let it, that's when we do the shapes. Then we proof it. And that's what we're going to be doing. We skip the fermentation section and we're just going right to proof. So this is what we're going to proof these to make them a little bigger. Okay. I will make 6 and then stop. And then we can let them rise. Again, you can do 6 on your pan and then restart them. So I'm going to cover it up and I'll let that sit about 10 minutes So we're gonna see them rise. And I think what I'll do is cover these just to keep them in here. I can turn those into rolls. Simple, fast. But for you at home, please feel free to do your knots. Okay, so we're gonna let that sit aside. Garlic knots are gonna wait about 10 minutes before we bake them off. In the meantime, you can start your butter mixture. So we're gonna melt some butter. Oops, I actually need to grab one more pan. We're gonna melt the butter, which is with the garlic. So we're gonna cut that garlic up. Okay, so we're gonna get, that's for the, perfect. This is for my other dish. So we're gonna use my garlic butter. So we're gonna use that 2 tablespoons of butter. Make sure you pull all the paper off of your butter. And then we've got 2 cloves of garlic for you. So with your garlic, you can chop that up. Okay, so we're gonna smash this a bit. And then you'll chop it up, mince it up as best as we can. Again, if you wanna mince it to your size. It's just going to be on the top of your garlic knot when it's cooked. So the smaller it is, the better it might be spreadable. So garlic is obviously one of those great creations, you know, that we have, and it's a bulbous type of a plant, right? And so some of the things we know about garlic is it's got some great health benefits. The plant originated in Central Asia. So garlic came to us from Central Asia. And any idea how many varieties of garlic we have? This is another trivial fact for you. How many varieties of garlic do we have out there? So we're going to put this together with your spices. We're going to find our spices really quick. And we're going to find so we're looking for the Italian seasoning and garlic pepper. Sorry, everybody. We'll get that in a second. But how many varieties of garlic do you think we have? Okay, thank you. TS, garlic seasoning. So that's your garlic powder, Italian seasoning. We're going to add that to the mixture. And then you have Parmesan cheese. Now I'll leave it up to you if you want to use the whole bag. So there's probably about 4 tablespoons in here. You can use the whole thing or you can use part of it. It's up to you. You could use some of that. I'm going to add the whole thing because who doesn't love cheese? And then we're going to melt this just a little bit. And that will be ready for us to put on top of the garlic knots when it's done. So how many versions of garlic do we have? I can tell you it's more than 100. Any guesses? We have more than 100 versions of garlic. All right, more than 200. Now we're going to make, while that's melting, because we have a few minutes, I'm going to start the za'atar. So we're going to start our water for pasta. So you have a ½ pound of spaghetti. One of the things that you want to do when you make spaghetti or any kind of noodles is give them enough room to move around. So you have to keep your spaghetti noodles moving around. So we're going to heat our water up. We're going to salt it. Because I do believe we have pasta salt for you. So you're going to add your salt. Why do I salt the water? Is it to help it not stick? Why do we salt the water? We're gonna wait for that to boil. Any garlic finders? How many varieties of garlic we have? Another trivia fun thing. This is melting nicely.
Says makes the water hotter.
Oh, yeah. If we had a bunch of salt, it would actually cause that boiling temperature to get higher. So we'd need to raise it up. Right now, boiling water is 212. If we added a bunch of salt, we would drive that ratio or that temperature up hotter than 212. So that's not quite what we're using when we boil pasta. But why would I have to put salt in the water for pasta? It's really one thing. The whole purpose of it is one thing. It's for taste. So you actually flavor the pasta. Pasta by itself, if you've ever eaten a raw noodle, it's not very exciting. So if you have, make sure my burner's on. Does not feel like it's, sorry, that looks crazy. Putting my hand on an oven on top of the stove, but I'm not getting a hot spot. There. No. Let's try this one. Oh man, we're gonna have fun finding the right burner. Okay, let's go this route. Why that's not hot. Okay, so back to we're creating hot water here. So we're gonna make this nice and hot, but salt is for flavor. Your pasta does not have flavor, so we definitely want to add salt to the water. You can add a little bit of olive oil too if you don't want it to stick too much, but you don't have to. It's up to you. That will help it from sticking as much. And you've got a half a pound of spaghetti noodles. And these usually about double. So this will turn into a pound of pasta for you. So you've got your half pound that will get ready. It's up to you if you want to break it. Otherwise you can keep it whole. And then we're going to get that ready in the water. Did anybody come up with how many versions of garlic we have? All right. 450 varieties of garlic. And I did learn this week, just this last week, from Jensen, one of our extension agents, that they are actually doing specialty crops here on Oahu and also on the Big Island with garlic growth. So they're actually trying to grow it here in Hawaii, which I think is pretty exciting. So look for local garlic next time you're in the store. I don't know how widespread it is, but it's starting out there. Okay, so my pasta is gonna get started. And we're going to boil the pasta, and this is going to melt in a minute. One other question for you. Garlic, since we love garlic so much, can dogs eat garlic or cats? Is it okay to give a cat garlic or onion? Some of you are shaking your head. No, you're right. It's not actually, it's toxic to them. So don't give them garlic, your garlic knots. Don't go to the dog tonight. You're going to keep those for yourself. So while that's starting up, I'm going to also start my, while the pasta's going, we're going to start our pot of oil and everything in the garlic. So we have more garlic for you. So you have, this one has 5 to 6. So it's up to you. I think the more garlic, the better, right? And garlic was also used to ward off evil spirits, if you didn't realize that. So garlic is said to fight off evil spirits. Plus, it also keeps your vampires out of the way too. So we got to keep those, wash your parsley. And then you're going to also wash your spinach. So I have a question for all of my herb fans. Okay. Dear Mom, happy Valentine's Day, right? What kind of parsley is this versus this? So we have 2 kinds of parsley. So we have 2 versions. We're going to use one tonight over the other. So, hi, honey, here's my bouquet, right? So you think about that. But what's the difference? So if we look at it, if Kelly zooms in, what's the difference? What's the name of this one that we're going to use compared to this one? And do they really make that much of a difference? You can also take off some of the stems if you want to do that. I'm gonna scoop my pasta over, but not too far because it'll fall in the. What's the difference in the pasta? I mean, in the parsley. And I always tell people, if you don't know what it is, make sure you smell it. So crinkle a leaf and smell it. And that will tell you if it's parsley versus cilantro. If you have cilantro, it's very different. But cilantro is similar to that. So did anybody guess what my different types of parsley are? So here's a good indicator that when you go to the grocery store, the problem is they stack all these things together. And so you look at the whole shelf and you're thinking, oh my gosh, what do I get? So this is considered curly leaf or American parsley. This is flat leaf, or also known as Italian parsley. And then we also know Chinese parsley as cilantro. So you have all these parsleys that you can pick from. There's 3. So curly leaf, flat leaf, and then cilantro would be the other. Then this is known as Italian parsley to the food industry. And again, I'm just trying to pick off some of those heavier stems, waiting for my water to boil over there too.
Does it matter which one you use?
You know, there is a mild difference in flavor. It won't matter for this particular purpose. It won't matter, but some of your recipes might actually specify to use flat leaf parsley or Italian parsley. So just watch your recipes. This one just said parsley, so we're good with parsley. Okay, now I'm going to pull off just some of the bulky stems. If it was cilantro, I would say you could use the stems a little bit more because they're a little softer. Parsleys can be a little bit more coarse. So we'll break off those and then we're going to chop it up. And then we also have our garlic that we're going to mince too. So how's my time on my rolls? We're good? Okay, so we're going to bake. Before I start chopping this, I'm going to put those rolls in the oven. Oh, beautiful. Look at that. So they doubled in size, roughly. They've definitely, and you can smell the yeast too. So they definitely will puff up. You've got to, you can kind of feel them. So I'll separate this out a little bit more. They get a little bit more airy. Oops. Separate them out. The trick was to get them about the same size so they cook evenly. So we'll put these in the oven. And those will cook for about 10 minutes and we'll see how they're doing. All right, so let's get our parsley kind of chopped up. And again, if you've got a bunch of herbs, kind of try and rock back and forth. My cutting board is getting a little squirrely, but we can definitely chop these up, and my water's starting to get hotter. So that's good for the pasta. Okay. And you don't have to get this too, it's a rough chop. So chop it up to whatever size you'd like. Okay, but we will mince the garlic. So I'm going to get all these cloves of garlic and start with those. And I'm going to start smashing them first, because that's what we're going to cook off first. Okay. So if you have garlic now that you've got all this wonderful garlic, right, then you're going to go up and be close to your favorite person and you're going to have garlic breath. So one of the ways that you can get rid of like a heavy garlic taste in your mouth, you could drink something acidic, or you could use lemon juice. So that's, I mean, we talk about how to get it off your hands, but we really don't talk about how to get it out of your mouth. So we can definitely do that with some lemon juice if you have, or you could always, you know, brush your teeth, right? But have a wedge of lemon for your special person so they don't have garlic breath. All right. So we've kind of got our, we're gonna pull our parsley out of there. And we're gonna cook this garlic. So in our pan, we're gonna put our olive oil. So you have a container of olive oil, so extra virgin olive oil, that is gonna go into your pan. And I've got my pan heating up. We're gonna pour that in. Okay. And we're gonna add the garlic to that. And so when you cook garlic, one of the things that you have to do is not to let it cook too long. So we don't want it to burn. But you know what, before I do that, I think I need to turn that down a little bit. What we're gonna do is we gotta get our lemon ready because we're gonna have lemon juice and lemon zest. So I've got that separated. So we're gonna grab our lemon, and you can, so if you don't have a zester, we've talked about this one before. If you don't have a zester on hand, you can use a grater, like a cheese grater. You could take small chunks off it with a knife if you're comfortable, but really a grater would do okay. And we're gonna also juice it. So we're gonna try and zest this before we squeeze it. Because if you zest it after you cut it, it's a little harder to handle. So get your zester going and use this first before you cut it. So really, I'm just trying to get that top layer of the lemon peel. Okay. So we're going to zest the entire lemon. You can kind of go around and spin it around as you go. These zesters they're also known as microplaners. You can find these at most every store. I mean, I think they even have them at Walmart or Target, or they might even have them at Long's or even Safeway. Some of the grocery stores will have them, but they're nice to have on hand just because you can zest and get that top layer, because that's where those what we call essential oils are sitting. And so that's the flavor that we're getting from that lemon in addition to juice. Okay, my water is taking a minute to boil. And I think we probably have about 8 minutes on our rolls, so we'll keep an eye on those. Okay, now this is ready to cut in half. And if you're ever worried about lemon seeds, you can always squeeze it into a bowl first so that you make sure you don't get those seeds. And if you have one of those squeezers, you can also use that, and that will help keep your seeds out. You can use as much of the lemon juice. I mean, it has a wonderful flavor and adds to it quite a bit. So you're going to squeeze that whole lemon. And obviously we're going to get a strainer and use that strainer to get rid of our seeds. This one has a lot of seeds. Okay. So we've got our zest ready, and now we've got our juice ready. So that'll go into our oil. Once we do the garlic, and once we start cooking that garlic, then we can get that fragrant volume out of it, and then we're going to add the lemon juice. All right. So before we do our lemon juice, we'll definitely strain it. Okay. Ooh, time-wise. Let's get our pasta going, or our pasta is still boiling. Water is taking a while. So come on over this way, Kelly, and we're going to get our garlic going. So we're going to cook this until it gets fragrant. So we really want to just get that smell started. I did get a little of my parsley in there, but that's okay. All right, so we're going to get that so you can smell it. That's really what you want to get. You want to smell that fragrance coming from the garlic, which I can already smell. And again, it's going to get that nice kind of a golden color. Plus it just smells amazing. Okay, then we're gonna add to that, grab my recipe real quick. So we're gonna add to that our lemon juice. We're also gonna use what we should have had is pasta water waiting for us, but we're still kind of waiting on the pasta. And the whole benefit of pasta water is it does help to kind of get that, it's not glue, but it kind of helps it to stick together. It's kind of like an emulsifier. It'll help it to stick. And so that's what the pasta water will eventually do. But we're gonna add our lemon juice. And then we're gonna add our zest. Okay. And then your spinach. So you have a giant bag of spinach. Make sure you rinse this first. So I'm gonna rinse it off and put it into a big colander. And we'll rinse it. Okay. And basically what you want to try and do is to start adding it to this because it's going to start wilting the spinach really quickly. And then we also have kosher salt that we're going to add to the spinach. Or salt, if you're at home and you have salt, you can do that. So you can add the spinach in there and we're just going to wait for it to kind of wilt. And I'll use a pair of tongs. So you can see it's kind of starting to wilt. So we really want to just get it in batches and start that whole wilting process. And if you can fit it, like I have a pretty good sized deep pan, so I'm just going to fit it into there. But as it wilts, it's easier to incorporate. So it looks like a lot of spinach right now, but it'll actually shrink up quite a bit. And now my pasta is, or my water is boiling. So we'll get the pasta in the water. And again, it's up to you if you want to break it in half. I'm going to use it whole. Get that to kind of curl around. If you use spaghetti, you really want to get to al dente. So that's generally about 7 to 10 minutes. I mean, you have to look at your package isn't with you. So I think spaghetti is about, somebody can look up for me on my side what the spaghetti noodles are time-wise. I think it's, okay, 8 minutes. So we're going to shoot for an 8-minute window of time to cook this. The rolls smell like they're done. Are we at that time frame on the rolls? Okay, so we're gonna let this cook. We're gonna add some salt to our spinach too. Oh, those are perfect. So pull these out. Look at that. Those are beautiful. So we're gonna let those sit. My oven is still on because we're gonna use it for the cake. So I've got my spinach here. We're gonna add a little bit of salt. Not too much to taste. We're going to add, we'll add the rest, get that in there. So we got 8 minutes on my noodles. Get this going. We're going to get this nice and wilted. If you find a spot that looks a little rough, pull it out. So you just want to get soft, kind of turn it over. If you have a, like a spoon that you want to use, tongs works. Okay. We're going to get that to wilt. And what's missing from here is my half a cup of pasta water. So what I'll do is it's starting, so I can use my pasta water in a second. We're going to add that to our mixture. Okay. We're going to add, get that nice and soft. Then we're going to add our peppers. So we have some red crushed peppers for you. right here. And I had fun showing my class the last couple of days. So if we look at spices, what's the difference? That's both of those are crushed red peppers. So what's the difference? What happened to the one that's closer? What's this one? What's happened here? This is a great example of what you might pull out of your cabinet at home. So it's a good idea to know what you're looking at. So that's actually just telling me that this one's been around a lot longer than this one. This is fresh. This one's been around as long as I don't know. So that's why you have color changes. So spices do degrade over time. So use as fresh as you can. All right, I'm going to add the half a cup of my pasta water. It's not quite as starchy as I'd like it to be, but we'll add that half cup. And then we're going to add a tablespoon of the za'atar. So this was perfect. So this spice, it's actually, za'atar is a herb, but this is more of a blend. So obviously we see sesame seeds in here, and we see some green fluffy spices. So we're going to add that tablespoon of the za'atar spice to this. And then as soon as my pasta finishes, as soon as the pasta is done, then we're going to be able to toss it together along with our cheese. Okay, so we'll let that, it keeps flopping over the edge. Okay, so we're gonna let that go. We got 5 minutes here on our, I'm gonna trade pans. We're gonna warm this up so we can spread it on our garlic knots. Hopefully you're all sticking with me. This is a busy class tonight. All right, so we got this warming up. So we have a nice blend of cheese and butter and spices. And we just made it nice and soft. If you had to put it, you could do it in the microwave, either one, just as long as you get that softened. Put this guy back on the side, and then we will put this across the garlic knots or rolls. And because you've got those garlic knots have those little nooks and crannies there, that will catch some of your seasoning. So if you don't have a pastry brush like this, you can use a knife or a spoon, anything that you have on hand. And we'll spread that out. Oops. Okay, and I've got 4 minutes on the pasta, and then we're gonna get our cake ready for you. And I will show you what beautiful work we had earlier from Charlene, who made the garlic knots earlier. So I will move this out of the way. Still a bit warm, so I will pull this, but there is your garlic butter, basically. And there's your garlic knots. So I did pull this one aside. This is what is a typical serving size. So this would be one serving size of your garlic knots. All right, let me stir this really quick. Got 3 minutes on the pasta. The spinach is ready to go. Let me start the cake. We've got 5 minutes, everybody. So if you stick with me, we'll get through this. I'm gonna move this up, and I'm gonna put this here. We're gonna create a double boiler system. So you've got a pan underneath. Your pan has about 1 inch of water. And then you're gonna put a bowl, if you have a metal bowl or any kind of bowl, on top, and we're gonna heat the water up below it, and this will melt your chocolate. So this is going to have your chocolate. And we have, so what you're gonna need is a couple of eggs. You've got your chocolate chips. Oops. So get those ready. We're gonna do our ramekin. So you have one of the disposable ramekins. Now you can use your paper from your butter and smear it around there. Or if you have Pam, you can spray it with that. So we're going to do the butter and get that melting. Okay, we're going to melt the butter. And then we're going to melt the chocolate. So you've got your 1 ounce of chocolate chips, add that in there. This is going to be on the burner. I don't want to go too hot, but I want it warm. We can use, I think I'll use a different spoon. Yeah, there we go. So we've just got a few more, like less than a minute on the pasta. And get that ready to dump. So less than a minute. Okay, so that spinach is perfect. Not too soft, not too firm still, just right. That's the Goldilocks principle, just right. Let's get this guy up to high. We're gonna melt this together. And I think what we'll have to do is show you our final product for timing. And when you get yours done, you're going to bake it for about 15 minutes. Or actually, no, we cut it back. We cut it way back to about 10 minutes. Check at 10 in regards to the juiciness of it. So we will show, we have one that is cut into a few pieces already, but we'll definitely share that with you so you can kind of see it. I have my pastas ready to go. So we're going to dump that out. That's beeping on me. All right, put that, turn that off. We're going to mix our pasta. Mix that into our spinach. Okay. Add your parsley. Oops. And this is where you can, oh, I put my lemon zest in there a little early. So we can put our parsley on top now, and you can put your Parmesan cheese. And again, you have a good amount of Parmesan cheese. So it's up to you if you want to use the whole thing or if you want to use part of it. But we're going to put the Parmesan on top, and I'll go ahead and dump the whole thing on. And then we're going to toss that. So while this is melting. All right, so actually I'm going to use my other set of tongs. We're going to kind of toss this together. And then we also need to add that the rest of the za'atar. And it's, again, it's up to you on the flavor on your za'atar. You can add as the whole thing, all that's left, or you can put part of it in. If you didn't want to make it too spicy, you can leave out some of the chili peppers as well. We'll put the za'atar in. Sprinkle that around, toss it. And it's going to mix up nicely. You can smell the lemon very much so. Okay, so that's going to sit until we're ready to eat it. But that looks beautiful. Then we have our chocolate we're going to melt here. Got a little bit of parsley in with our chocolate. So we're going to melt this. And we're going to take it, once that melts, we're going to set that aside. And then we're going to whisk up our other cake mix pieces, which is going to be your cocoa, your sugar. I have it right here. So the lava mixture, we're going to put that in a bowl and kind of toss it together. Okay, so you can see how the butter slowly melting. Chocolate's melting really nicely. Okay, so get that to melt nicely. So as far as I was talking a little bit about the za'atar earlier, some of our za'atar is, we had this back in, I think last April, we did a za'atar pita bread. So za'atar had a Lebanese oregano to it. So that's one of the flavors that you'll pick up in there. It's obviously got the sesame seeds. But it's definitely a nice Mediterranean type of a spice. You can see the steam coming out. So below it is definitely boiling. So again, za'atar is a Arabic name for that perennial herb, Origanum syricum. Also wild thyme is in there. And I was mentioning the Lebanese oregano. So we finished this. Sorry, I'm going all over the place. That was the za'atar. So this looks perfect. Okay, melted chocolate. All right. Let's get that off the burner. Take that off the heat. So that's going to sit. But za'atar is definitely a nice flavor. You'll when you taste it tonight, you'll be really excited about the flavor. So we're going to mix the flour. So this has almond flour. So guess what? All my gluten-free folks, this is gluten-free. So almond flour, it also has in that mixture, it has the almond flour, powdered sugar, cocoa powder, and salt. So now we're going to use we've got one egg or two large eggs, one large egg whole, and then one yolk. So we're going to split that. And I'm going to add my white, so separation of eggs, because I just need one yolk, or I need one white. I need two yolks, one white. So we're going to try and move this back and forth just to get that yolk out. Okay, and you can drain your white off. And then you'll mix your yolk in here, plus I will do that one egg, one whole egg. And I took that risk of putting it right over my bowl, but we survived. Then we're going to mix this together and we're going to whisk it. Get that started. You have red food coloring. You are welcome to use the entire container of red food coloring. If not, if you don't want to add red food coloring at all, that's totally fine as well. But we're going to mix this. So we've got the egg, all of your dry ingredients, the salt, and then we're going to add that food coloring in. So I will add the whole amount of the food coloring because that turned it really pretty and red. So we'll try and get this out of the, a little tough to, it's like more stuck to the side of the edges. Maybe. And you can't, yeah. So if you can't get it all out here, if you want to save just a little, it won't take much. You can put some of that with the frosting and make your whipped cream a nice red. There we go. Okay. Now that is ready to go. So we're going to pour that into our greased sheet. And we got to put the chocolate in there too. That right now it's looking really, really, really red. So we're going to add our chocolate in. Okay. Here we go. Let's mix that up. Ooh, it smells good. And we'll use a little bit of butter to grease the edges of our pan, of our ramekin. So I have an extra butter. I'm just going to smear a little bit in the inside. That'll help it so it doesn't stick to the edges so much. Okay. Then you'll pour it into there. How's everybody? If anybody's cooking with us, how are they doing? Holy moly, we got a time chunk. Sorry, I really appreciate you all hanging with us. And understand if you need to drop off. We gotta get, kind of gotta. How are we doing? Anybody else cooking still?
Hey Laura, it's Rudy.
The chocolate. Hi Bree. So we're gonna put this into the oven, and this is like really small, but we're gonna put it. You can put this on a baking rack, but it is solid enough where it will hold itself. So I'll try and get it as far into the center as I can, and we're gonna shoot for 10 minutes, right? All right, za'atar's done.
So the other
Garlic
one
knots.
Added to the bowl of red velvet. It was the melted chocolate.
Yes, melted chocolate and butter. Okay, last step, your sour cream and whipped cream option. So using cold ingredients is gonna really help you. So use the coldest option and keep it in the fridge. So you're gonna add to this, you're gonna put the sour cream, and this is the whipped cream. Sour cream, and then the powdered sugar. And this is a fresh whisk. Okay, and that'll give it a little bit of a, that sour cream gives it just a little bit of a zing. All right, and then we're gonna mix this, and I know that you all have that elbow strength, right? You'll all have great looking arms by the time you're done tonight. Better to squeeze your special person. You build up that arm. And again, the whole purpose of whipped cream, so there is a difference between heavy whipping cream and whipped cream. So what is whipped cream and what is heavy whipping cream? What's the difference?
One has air,
Truly
one
subtle.
doesn't.
Whipped cream, you've already whipped it. Whipping cream. Yes, so you're gonna start that fluff up process. When you get it on, when you're ready to do this for your red velvet cake, I would let your cake cool slightly. If you put this on a hot surface, you know, it's just gonna get really soft. And as we kind of let it sit, it turned a little bit softer. So that took me, I don't know, 2 minutes to get it thick. I told you, you're gonna get a workout tonight. So get it up to the point where it stays nice and firm. How's that? My arm is tired, but that's all right. Somebody else gets to wash dishes tonight. And so we have, oh, we want to add a little bit of the food coloring? Sure. Make it turn red. Let's see if we got enough. Ooh, pink. There we go. So that's the consistency you're getting to. So you want to get yourself up to that consistency. Make sure you can blend in all your red. We shouldn't be as high a risk turning this into butter because we have the sour cream in there. It's a little bit of a deterrent for that, but you've got that nice dollop that we can put on top of I'll add it to our current one, and you can see the red next to the white. Okay, so let me show you a finished part of our lava cake. So your lava cake will come out like this. Again, a lot of people think lava cakes are really hard to make. They're not hard to make. The one thing that we did that I want you to be aware of is the reason we put you back on time or told you to go cut back the time was so that you get that ooze out. So that's really the biggest difference. And this is a giant spoon, but I'll use it. And that will be, we can put that on the side of our lava cake. Okay. So we have a really pretty dessert. We have a delicious za'atar with spinach and garlic, which we have over here as well. And then we have our final garlic knots. So I hope that you all have, thank you for all staying and have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your creations and hopefully you get a chance to make them either tonight or tomorrow. Don't let your spinach sit too long. It will go bad. So use that up soon and enjoy your outcome of your meals. Share it with anybody that you'd like. And we will see you next month. We have some great things coming up. And there is an evaluation tonight that we would love for you to fill out because that's kind of giving us some ideas for next time or any future cooking shows. So please do that. We also included information about how helpful is the nutritional analysis on the back. So we look forward to your information. Have a super weekend, everybody. Happy Friday. It's done. It's Pauhana. We're past Pauhana. So ready to go and enjoy your weekend. See you next month. Bye.